As Ukraine enters its second year of war with Russia, its leaders pledging to fight to the end. People all over the world reflecting and remembering the lives lost. In Sydney, Australia, Paris, France, New York City, lights shining bright in support of Ukraine. Children in London singing songs of hope. More than 21,000 civilians have died so far in this war. So joining us now for a closer look at where things stand, On Balance host Leland Vittert. Leland, always good to speak with you. I want to start about what happened at the UN Security Council meeting. Russia's ambassador interrupted a moment of silence, obviously seen as a sign of disrespect by many. Is Russia showing any signs of backing down?
It was not exactly an Adlai Stevenson moment, shall we say, for the Russian ambassador. He wanted it to be one he wasn't. The UN Security Council has become about theater, right? And they're not going to do anything about this. No, the Russians show absolutely no sign of backing down. And the Russian ambassador standing up and interrupting and doing this, look, he was playing for his audience back home and for Vladimir Putin, because if he didn't, we know what could happen to him. There's some buildings he could fall off of, or his food could get poisoned or whatever. So the reason the Russians are backing down is Vladimir Putin views this as an existential issue for him. If he loses the war in Ukraine or admits defeat or withdraws or stops, his time and power is probably over. There's not a lot of life expectancy or career opportunities for former Russian despots. So there you go.
All right, so on the flip side of that, obviously Ukraine continues to get the support from the West. The U.S. again today pledging even more money. So Ukraine also not showing any signs of backing down at this point.
No, and I talked to an old friend in Ukraine who I was with in 2014 out in the Donbass in the eastern part during the first Russian invasion. And they are as defiant as they have ever been. This is the problem, though, and you said it very well. You've got Russia not backing down, right, conceivably maybe bolstered by China. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you have the West not backing down. Okay, what is in the middle is this relatively small country with a limited number of lives, with an economy that has been destroyed. The United States and the West is giving Ukraine enough to bleed Russia, not enough to beat Russia. Right. So at some point, it will come down to a test of how long can this go on? What is our examples? Afghanistan, not for the United States, but for the Soviets in the 1980s. America turned Afghanistan into the Soviets' Vietnam, and then Vietnam is the comparison for the United States.
And also caught in the middle, I just think all of those civilians.
Yeah.
Leland, before we go, tell us what else you're talking about tonight on the show.
We've got this really interesting interview with Sviat a year later, because we talked to him in the very first days of the war. He's now a member of parliament there. The other thing we're talking about is not the Ohio train disaster in Ohio, but how it has now affected Pennsylvania, because a lot of the toxic sludge is headed to Pennsylvania. The issue now for all of these states where huge amounts of rail freight go through is they're helpless. They have all of the responsibility to clean this up and to help, but none of the authority to make sure it doesn't happen, because the railroads remain regulated only by the federal government.
Yep, we are staying on top of it. Leland, we'll certainly be watching. Thank you so much for your time.
Weekend.
You can watch On Balance with Leland Vittert every night, 7 Eastern. It is right after rush hour. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnation.now.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.